With that, we have reached the 300. Well, we were at the 300. We just dropped down to 290. We're at 300. So why don't we begin? Okay, this is the Monday night webinar, and we have Mr. Laurie with us. So with no further ado, Mr. Laurie, it's yours.
Hello, everybody. Yep. I just can't stare at myself the whole time. I'm going to have to turn it away. All right, let's get serious. I can't. It's just tough. Let's get serious here. And once again, flanked by Mr. Graneri and Mr. Corella. And I appreciate their attention here and their time here, along with all of the attendees where we broke our record. I think it was a good idea to move off the Sunday night to Monday night webinar. But next week, we'll get back to Monday night, all right? Sunday night. We'll go back to Sunday night. That's better. So let me get started, if I can, if I may, and go through a series of things here. First of all, we have no update on the return or not return to school. We listened to the governor this afternoon and yesterday, and he made it quite clear that the return to school would be predicated on a multi-state business development model, and we don't have any clue whatsoever what that means. I sat on a state webinar on Saturday, and we are pretty much up to date on all the things that we need to be up to date on. I thought that tonight I would go through a series of updates, answer questions from last week that may still be pertinent, and then I kind of wrote a plan book for myself and central office about the things that we need to accomplish for the next 6 weeks in 2-week increments. I know we've asked the teachers to do 2-week lesson planning and lesson announcements there to their kids, but I thought that it was important that the staff knew exactly where I was with the administrators and with the staff in the next 2 weeks, the following 2 weeks, and the following 2 weeks. We know that we're off at least until the 29th, and I pushed this out until the middle of May, hoping, with all hope beyond hope, that we could return, but I'm really not certain about that, okay? So let me just jump right in. And this is gonna be more of a stream of consciousness thing, so just try to stay with me. And then after about 20 minutes, I'll pause and we'll answer questions that you all might have, okay? So here we go. There is a very new but very critical law on the state law books called Education Law 2D. It is a serious law. It is on the books already, and it protects the personal information and personal identification of people. It's really for data privacy, data security, et cetera, et cetera. Ray Graneri is our Education 2D law enforcement officer, meaning that he got another job to do, but he didn't get any more remuneration for it, but he's taken it very seriously. And if you ever had the time to read it, it's for our own protection and our own good. One of the highlights of Education Law 2D really protects us against unwarranted attacks, Bitcoin attacks, personal privacy being shared. And if you just think about ECMC Hospital, probably a year ago, they were tied up for weeks, if not months, with ransom. And it was probably just an innocent thing that happened. And during this time, there are some very nefarious people out there. So I say that to you in the context of telling you, you've got to stay in the lane of the district software. You have to stay in the district software lane. Now, it appears to me, and I am an outsider to this, really, because I rely on Ray, that on Thursday and Friday of the week, I start to see more and more links and offerings and great websites for phys ed and logins, especially over the long weekend. You start to see more and more of them. And that's just a noticing I had from clicking off all the email I get. And out of the goodness of the hearts of our staff, people will send things, and I'm glad they send things to me or Ray and say, can we just subscribe to this? I think it'll be good for my kids. It's being promoted by such and such awareness society that are good people. And it may well, in fact, be good. It may not be. But when you put that link forward to us or to your colleagues, we don't know what's behind it. So the face may look good, but the guts behind the face may be very poisonous and bad. And I'm not trying to be threatening or have a lot of drama, but I have to tell you the district is required to comply with Education Law 2D, and it's why we push back so hard, so often on so many seemingly great offers that really could cause trouble. The last thing that we would want to ever happen to the district at this time is to get locked down by some simply unassuming link that I'm sure we thought was a good one. So I'm going to close this part of my diatribe by saying you have to stay in the district software lane. You have to stay there. That's what that term software distancing was coined for. Distance yourself from any software that's not in our lane. If you're not sure, email Ray, call Ray. Don't even email it to him. Don't click on the link. Don't open the link. Call Ray. He will get back to you. Email him, text him, call him. Do whatever you have to do to get his attention. But don't open it and don't spread it. Okay? That's my 2D speech of the day. Next, trainings. Let's talk about trainings. Beginning tomorrow, we are going through another phase of trainings. There's two separate trainings I want to talk about. The first one is something that Roger and Jean are uniquely and awesomely really leading here. It's the extension of the webinar training. It's going to only be offered twice a day, 9 and 1 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That training will be a takeoff of the webinar training that we all went through last week, a web page training. I should say web page. It's each session will be the same, but it will be different than what you were exposed to the previous week. Okay, this is kind of the phase 2 of our training, and the biggest part of this training for those listening will be with respect to two-way communication between student and you. So we've done you did a super good job, and I really went through as many web pages as I could, and I am extremely impressed and very pleased and really proud of the work you did. But now we have to have a way back home from the work you put out back to your desk and to your ability to look at. So this training, in my terms, which are the simplest ones there are, that's what it is. It's the way back home from the website that you put out. So please find yourself attentive to one. Do you have to sign up, Ray?
That's pre-registered.
You have to pre-register for those. Please do it. The second training is, I'll call this the Phil Miano training. He's a very good trainer from BOCES. We're very lucky to have him. His training will be about Office 365 and OneNote. Teams, Office 365 Teams, Ray's correcting me, and OneNote. It's a little bit different than the web page back and forth, but it's something that I'm encouraging you all to dabble in or take a deeper dive into if you've already dabbled into it. That training is every day this week starting tomorrow. I think on my call I said it started Wednesday, but Ray quickly corrected me. It starts tomorrow, and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Take advantage of those trainings, please. The schools are doing a super good job trying to determine how many students don't have the either the technology access or the tool to get into technology. Just before I came on here, I read a statistic from Niagara Falls High School, and they have about 1,900 students, and at last call, 1,518 of those 1,900 had both a hotspot and a device. Now they're continuing to narrow that list down, which is good. and other schools are doing the same, because we still will and probably will always have a need to print things in hard copy. We're going to try to eliminate that as much as we can, but we'll always are going to have that need. So the schools are doing a really good job trying to narrow that focus, and I appreciate it. With respect to laptop distribution, let me tell you exactly what's happening. Exactly. We're starting with Niagara Falls High School, and Ray and his team are imaging laptops. By principal request, we are signing those laptops out. But it's not just a free-for-all. Hey, I want a laptop, I need it, give it to me. It takes quite a process to take the laptop, image it, put all of the content filters on it that need to be there, sign it out, have an agreement to bring it back, ensure that there's a hotspot to use it, or it's just a paperweight, and make sure that that's in place. We're pushing that forward with the high school first. We'll probably be up to about 70 in terms of distribution to students that need it. As of this afternoon, we had distributed 11 hotspots, which we may have to get more of. Now, I read the article in the Buffalo paper yesterday where Buffalo spent all of their smart schools money buying 28,000 hotspots. I'm hoping that we don't have to do that, and I don't think we will. One of the things that this district is doing, and it's the reason why I gave you that long story about Education 2D, is that we're not releasing anything that's not content filtered. That is the first strike against Education Law 2D, and we're not going to violate it intentionally and willingly, even though we want to get kids laptops. We'll continue to do paper products, okay? Let me tell you where we're getting these laptops from. This is good news. Sitting in a warehouse at Erie One BOCES in West Seneca are brand new laptop computers for all our pre-K to 2 students. And if we were in school, Ray again would have had those all imaged and in the pre-K to 2 classrooms. Unfortunately, this is taking a diversion of his time, which I fully support. We've left them in the warehouse at Erie 1, but when things calm down or over the summer, Ray will take possession of those laptops, take your old ones out of your cart, and the pre-K to 2 teachers will have new laptops. So we're taking the ones that we're going to turn back into BOCES. We have to collect them because it's like taking out when you take out a bottle, it's a bottle return with a little more cost to it, right? We have to return them to get our full money back. So these are not free gifts or free paperweights. We have to get them back in order to get our full return on our money. Okay. I'm jumping around, but I said this would be stream of consciousness time. I was interviewed today in a couple places, and I watched the ongoing fight between Cuomo and de Blasio. Now, the winner in that fight is going to be Cuomo, all right? No matter what de Blasio says, or I know our mayor wouldn't do that to us, it'll always be the governor who controls the purse strings of the school district, technically, because we rely on the aid to make that decision. And I know, in this case, I agree with him doing it in 2 or 3 week blocks, okay? Moving on. Something that we are not going to do. We are not going to send books home. We're not going to send consumables home. We are not going to send textbooks at any level for multiple reasons. One being the cost, one being reliable for every book, including library books. So we can't do that. Elementary consumable workbooks. We're not sending them home at this point. And the real reason for that is we're not sure if we'll come back in session. And if we come back in session, say, and I'm being hopeful, and this is not factual, but this is the reason why, is that if we're back in session, we need to use them in class. When we know we won't be in session, Mr. Corella will determine a time and manner in which to send home any of the elementary consumables. Okay? So I just wanted to get that out there about books and consumables. I just want to say something on the kind of on the emotional side here, and the and you know, to speak a little bit for students. So you got, and I mean this with all sincerity. I'm so proud of where we've grown in a short time with these web pages and this Office 365. I really am. I'm proud of the staff. I'm proud of Ray's team. I'm proud of curriculum. I'm proud of everybody that's taken a hold of this. We're going to have 100% not just compliance. We're going to have 100% commitment to this, which I'd like to tell you, we're not going to lose once the COVID crisis goes away. Once we have these, we need to keep these up. I'm going to insist on that. But I want you to just remember this about your web pages. They're good. They're really good. We want to keep evolving and making them better. We know we all came from a different spot. I would have been a level 1, believe me. I would have been a level 1 in my development of a web page. So I know from where some people come. I respect it and appreciate it, and I just love the fact that everybody got in the game. But I want you to remember that parents and students are at home sometimes struggling in the same way, myself included, would have struggled with a web page. Please offer, if you can, as much direction, as much information, and as much patience with our students navigating these web pages as you possibly can. Got a couple calls today, and they were very good calls. Their families are concerned. They want to do their work. They were starting to get frustrated. Let's take a deep breath. We'll do this together. Relax. We'll get it. Okay. So just be conscious of that. Be conscious of that. Kids are overwhelmed. Summer school. Something that I just want to keep promulgating and be really clear about. I won't even tell you the house or the person, but I drove by a senior at Niagara Falls High School's house yesterday. I couldn't help but feel terrible for this young man, because I watched him play baseball as a 9th grader, and now this was going to be his coming out all Western New York year. He's a very good baseball player, and I said, oh my God, I feel so bad that he can't even get on the field. I pray and hope that he'll even be able to have one at bat in a game. But I realize that. I feel bad for the senior. We are going to continue to order the lawn signs for the seniors. We had a anonymous donor come forward for our senior students. If you've seen these cool lawn signs that they have, we're going to see if we can't get one in every one of the 400 seniors' lawns. I saw his, and it kind of really brought me back to priority. So we want to do that. But I want to segue into summer school. If we have summer school, and that's an if, because who knows by July 8th if we'll be able to get back together. If we have summer school, and if school resumes in September, there is no way we are going to be able to put every kid in summer school. And when September starts, there is no way we're going to be able to make up 4 months, 3.5 months worth of work in 1 year. We're going to need to be patient with each other, patient with our curriculum, and slowly pick up concepts over the course of 4, 5, 6, 7 years until we get to that culminating year of graduation. That's why I started this story with the senior and worked back. So I have a plan. If we have summer school, we'll do it as we always have. We'll tell you more soon. If we don't, I've been talking about, if we have no summer school and no return, at some point I'd like to talk about small 1 and 2 day transition back to school camps or days or events or meetings on the playground. We'll just need to slowly get people back into the habit of it. So it's something on the long range picture for me. Let me talk now about a couple of things that we're not going to talk about tonight. How about if we do the non-negotiables for tonight out there? That way we can eliminate some of the questions. The non-negotiables for tonight are assessment and grading. I'm not prepared, nor is Mr. Corella, Mr. Graneri, central office, we're not prepared to talk about grading, assessment, scoring work, or even how we're going to collect work. Now, after we have these webinars this week, we will have a much clearer picture for you as to how we're going to collect the work back. But I want to let the webinars play out before I talk about how that could look, because I don't want to lead people down the path of those questions yet. Because if you attend, when you attend the webinars, you're going to feel a lot better about that question about returning work. Now, next Sunday night or the following Sunday night, we'll spend an hour and a half or 4 hours talking about how we're going to assess, grade, and give points, give numbers, anything like that. But for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to put that out there as a non-negotiable. The other non-negotiable that I have is I can't tell you what the prom is going to look like, what graduation is going to look like, what class day is going to look like, what moving up day at 6th grade is going to look like. I can't tell you that right now. I think it's too premature, and when I give you my plan book, you'll see where that falls. I do want to tell you that we're moving forward with sister schools 1 year from this September. September 2021 will be in full flight. That hasn't changed. That's not going to change. This morning, Mr. Corella and I were on a call about P-TECH. P-TECH is more of that career and technical education experience that we're going to. We are not moving away from that either. We're just put that on the sidelines a little bit. So I don't have a lot of information about that. And the final thing that we're still moving forward for is Head Start. You know, I've talked a lot about that in previous faculty meetings. It's my hope and my goal that in May or in about a month, we'll know whether we have the Head Start grant. And once we get through this COVID crisis and we've all come out of it for the better, which I know we're going to, next year there's just 3 focuses of special programming. It's going to be career and tech, you know, trades education. It's going to be sister schools, and it's going to be Head Start. And I have to put the governor on myself to say, let's stay in those lanes, Mark. You know, that's just me talking to myself. Finally, on one of the other non-negotiables, that is administrative assignments. Not ready to go there yet. I'm just not ready to go there yet. I want to see what happens with the end of the year. My plan would be May or June if you wanted to know the answer to that question. Let me do this. Let me give you my plan book, and then let me do the budget, and then I'll answer answer the previous questions, and then I'll open it up to questions. Here's my plan book. Try to break these out into 3 phases. The first phase started today, and it's going to go through April 24th. That's probably 2 weeks. Here's what the expectations are for the district in the next 2 weeks. 1 is to get up a good quality web page or Office 365 setup. That's number 1. Number 2, by the end of next week, I want to have a good, solid 2-way communication system established and put forth, whether it's in paper or on the computer. Number 3, I want to get moving on the next round of work products, because in about a week or 2, you're going to have to start thinking about replacing some of the assignments on your web page, because 2 weeks will be up. Number 4, I want to make sure that we're giving our AP students and our college credit students all the support they can get at the high school. And number 5, I want to make sure that any student that needs a piece of technology or a hotspot has that, and that we have solid numbers on who's working off of paper and who's working off of computers. That's all. That is all I want to do, and all I want the district to do for the next 2 weeks, you know, aside from food and all that other stuff. But in terms of where we are instructionally, that's it. So when we have a clear picture of what the targets are, we can all work in harmony to make sure we attend just to those targets. And let me do them again. A good solid web page or Office 365 setup. Yeah, with quality improving every day. You know, with quality improving every day. It's a day-to-day piece of work that we're working on. Number 2, a good two-way communication system. So the expectation is clear. When you get student work, how do you get it back? How do you give it out if it's in a packet? How do you get it back if it's in writing? That. 3, keep people moving to post their next set of quality assignments. 4, make sure we support those AP kids and those college level kids. Why? Because their year is coming to end soon. AP tests start in May and college classes end in May. That's why that's there. And letter for number 5 is make sure Mr. Granieri has pretty well shut the window on who needs technology, and we know how many paper packets we need versus how many we don't. Okay, that's the first block of work. May 27th through April 27th through May 8th. The next block of work I'm looking at. Here's what I want to do. I want to, at that point, again, that's 2 weeks away. So I just want you to know where my head is, and hopefully you will agree. Well, you kind of got to, I think, but but I just want you to know where my head is anyways. We'll want to talk about, during those 2 weeks, solidify how work is collected, how work is monitored, assessed. I don't want to use the word graded, but I'm going to use it. Assessed, monitored, corrected, and how feedback is given. Also, how to record that information. During those 2 weeks, I want to start to talk about alternative celebrations. How does the 6th grade moving up day look if you're having one? Are you having a picnic? How's the prom looking? How's the post-prom looking? What are we thinking about with graduation? And finally, during that 2 week part, what kind of, are we using any local assessments or not? I'm not saying we are. I just want to answer the question then. I'm not ready for those things yet, but they're on the next 2 week horizon on April 27th. Finally, I'll call these future discussions. We'll call these after May 11th discussions. I need to speak to the high school team and the middle school team about starting a P-TECH cohort. Who are these kids? How are we meeting them? These are the first group of kids that can get a college associate's degree and a high school diploma at the same time. Not backing off of that, we're doing that. We're going to have 125 kids in that pipeline very soon. Course requests for Niagara Falls High School. At some point in May, they're going to have to start creating a schedule for next year. So I want to make sure all the course requests are in. We have some type of way to regard the 8th graders who took algebra and living environment, even though they'll get Regents credit if they pass the test. 40-week report cards, what will they look like? Staffing and special schedules for elementary. Summer school and transition camps, and the involuntary voluntary transfer list. That's in the future discussion, May 11th through May 25th. So that's how we broke it up, okay? But remember, each Sunday night we'll go through that block. I may add, subtract, but that's the plan book that I'm going to evaluate myself against, okay, if we're meeting those goals. And I probably forgot something that you're saying, oh my God, why didn't he think of this? Either I forgot it or I didn't think it was that important at the time. Next, let me go through a list of former previously asked questions. These were asked 8 days ago, and I'll answer them now, just like when we conclude this, Gene or Roger will come out with that soft voice and say, this at 1 hour after this webinar, you'll be getting a form. I love that part of the meeting. So let me give you quick answers to the questions. Number 1, I'm concerned about students without the internet, how they get instruction. I told you, I already kind of answered this. We're trying to figure out how many per class, per school, per level. That we're working on that now. Let's see. Should the work packets and activities match the online stuff? The answer is yes, unless there's some type of video in there. I'm going to reach here. Unless there's some kind of teaching video in there, the content will match, but we can't put a video in a packet, okay? Next, Oh, this one I will never know how to answer, but Ray's here. He said it's an easy answer. Is there a way to increase my email capacity quota?
Yep, very easy. If you email me that you're having grief, that you've exceeded your quota, I will reach out and get that extended.
Next, what should teaching assistants be doing? Teaching assistants should be in communication with their teachers if you're in the PEP program, or special ed teachers if you're in the special ed program. I didn't make a directive to make a web page. If you'd like to, I saw some of them. They were very nice, but you should be supporting your teachers in whatever efforts that you need to do. Next, Rick and Ray are going to have to help me here. Am I allowed to say seesaw? Do we own that?
No, we don't. It's not licensed.
Okay, I'm not allowed to say it.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed. The question was about seesaw. It's something that's in a playground that you can go up and down on. When I was young, I was always on the bottom. I couldn't. You don't need to go any more there, but can't talk about seesaw. Read between the lines. Will we continue with web-based training? Yes. Consumables, can we send them out? No, already answered that. If school does resume, will the pre-K3 kids return? Yes, they will return, and we'll even add some kids to your list. Students at risk academically or for safety reasons, I'm worried about them. So am I. Please reach out and call and talk to as many kids as you can. Students that were scheduled for initial speech service meetings, will we have meetings? Here's the direction. The first thing that we're accomplishing is annual reviews. Rick and I had a call with the special ed central team today. They're following up with the school psychologists, and they're going to give me a status report. My understanding is that they have begun and they're going well. Then after we get that process set in place, the federal government has not lifted the requirement of 60 days on initial referrals. I should probably include that in my plan book, but I'm not going to worry about that in the next 2 weeks. I'll worry about that in packet in weeks 3 and 4. I've been using Office 365 since October. Should we stop using it? Absolutely not. Keep using it. Can special ed teachers include a letter about how to modify their work for their kids? Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the best parts of the web pages are the welcoming letters. I love reading them. I love some of the personality I saw in those letters. I love I guess it would be called self to student text that you let out without being too, without letting go of much confidentiality. They were really welcoming. Keep it up. Lastly, let me go through the budget and then I'll stop. So next Wednesday, we're going to present a budget to the Board of Education. Next Wednesday is it's a closed meeting, of course, to the public. We'll live stream it on that very popular YouTube channel. But next Wednesday, what I'm going to present is a budget that is about, let's say close to $2 million less than I proposed a month ago. And the reason is because the governor gave us $10,000 less than we got last year, despite the fact that healthcare, contracts, everything like that are going up. We got $10,000 less. And to start off, we needed $6 million just to run the same program. So I'm going to be proposing a budget to the board next Wednesday. The less part of it does not cut a program or a person that will be working. Okay, no cuts to programs or people that will be working. On the program side, we may be shifting the way we do certain things. We may be doing things a little differently. And I don't want to go too far down that road until the board hears this, but we're not cutting a program. On the people side, there may be a fewer FTEs, but those FTEs will come as a result of attrition. meaning that there's a retirement in a certain position, we're just not going to fill it. There's no way to make up a $6 million budget gap by cutting up paper clips and cutting notepads. You just can't do it. So I had to go to the attrition route, which I'm not happy about, but it's the only way I could say to the current staff, the community, the kids, the parents, the program, we're not going to raise your taxes. We're not going to cut your programs. We're not going to take your favorite teacher away, even though they may be brand new. We're just going to be a little slimmer. And I appreciate the fact that I'm hoping that everybody will understand that it keeps everybody working, basically in the position they're working in. So without going too far down that rabbit hole, I just want you to know that we've spent a considerable amount of time working on that. I'm also going to ask the Board of Education to use reserve money this year. Now, the reserve money is for a rainy day. And in my estimation, with the way the budget is and the way this crisis is, we're in the middle of a tsunami. And there's no better time to use reserve money than when you're in the middle of a rainy day or tsunami. So I have to ask the board to do that, though, because they're the final arbiters or approvers of the budget in which I recommend. So that's the good and the bad of the budget. We will share it with you all. It's a very transparent one-page document. It's not done. I need to let the board see it first, and then I'll put it out there for anybody in the world to see if they want. The good news is we've been fiscally responsible in keeping reserve money. The other good news, but sad news, is we do have a few retirements we're not going to be able to replace right away. The good news, again, is programs and people that are working will continue to do so. So I would really ask for more of your patience on that area, and we'll get there together. Let me look. I think we did it all. I'll stop talking. And that was only 42 minutes, but not bad.
Yeah.
Hope I clarified and answered some questions in anticipation of what's coming.
I think you did. By the way, we're up to 3:55, Mr. Laurie. And I'm going to have to get down and turn off my subtitling, but we got a couple.
Okay, no, por cierto, estamos a 3:55, Senior Laurie. Lo sé, mi voy tener que bajar. All right. I just had to.
Okay. And for
I'm trying to recall my
next week, we're going into Chinese, I think, Raj. Okay.
We'll have Mr. Kasarian from Newport on that for the Chinese discussion.
There you go.
Mr. Rainville was my Spanish teacher.
Okay. Well, he did well. Okay.
I also had Mr. Martinez and Mr. Vitello, too, when I was in school. I'm kidding. Kidding.
I've got a couple of real quick ones here, Raj, and then you can throw in what you have. Will there be days when we can go in to update our computers, as some of the computers need updates and passwords and things like that?
Well, if you're talking about Windows updates, operating systems updates, I like that idea. The thing that I find some comfort in is that part of what the superintendent was talking about for Education Law 2D, that's when we started enacting regular updates off of our Windows 10 build. And you probably all know and remember this, of where you might be in the middle of something and all of a sudden you're up to your computer update and apply those updates. So I think that we can never be as updated as possible, but I feel as if we're in a pretty decent spot with our Windows 10 operating system build. As far as passwords and things, yes, at some point that would be applicable. I just don't have a specific date of when they'll be allowed.
I'm making a note of that. It's a good question. I didn't even know that existed. Let's do that in early May, Ray.
Okay.
Early May. That'll allow us to get into phase 2, and we'll do it in early May. Next.
Okay, well, just going along with that a little bit, if schools don't open again, will we be able to go in and close our classrooms?
Yes. The answer is yes. What we'll do is we'll have a very staggered socially distant schedule. We'll probably start, we would probably start that no earlier than mid-June, or early June rather. Around June 1st, we'll start laying that out, and we'll do it on a very staggered schedule. But the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. And again, now, and I don't know if you can answer, what schools will have the pre-K 3 classes next year, and what will happen to the new 5 pre-K?
So I was on the phone this afternoon with the state, the early Office of Early Childhood today. I was on the call with Kathy Sullivan, and the good news is that the exact same funding was put in the budget for pre-K. So the same number of pre-K classes will exist. The location of them is still to be determined. Okay. Well, I love St. Stan's, but it was supposed to be a short-term solution with sister schools. My goal and hope would be to integrate those pre-Ks into school buildings, but I can't promise that that'll happen. Tomorrow, I've asked Mr. Corella, Ms. Massaro, and Cheryl Mateer from the special ed office, because we've got to factor special ed classrooms in there. We're actually bringing in 2 new special ed classes next year. We're hiring 2 additional special ed teachers for primary classes, mainly dealing with students who have autism. So it's a charge I've given Corella, Massaro, and Mateer to work on along with staffing, and they have a 1:30 meeting tomorrow. So the question is, yeah, the answer is yes, we'll be having the same number of pre-K 3s and 4s. I think it's 250 and 400. May 11th. Yeah, and we'll have to look at that, right. Rick's telling me we'll have to, that's in that May 11th packet with the voluntary transfer situation too. But the big answer is the same number of pre-K classes will be here.
Okay. And the last question, and it came from a couple of teachers. They say, basically saying, Mr. Laurie, you're working pretty hard these days, and they want to know how you're doing. How are you feeling?
Oh, well, that's awfully kind of my mother to ask that question. Well, I really thought my brother Tom was definitely her favorite, and my father, who had passed a long time ago, his favorite was Jeff. I was kind of like the only one out there. I'm really energized, and I mean this I don't mean to be patronizing. I'm really energized by the work people are doing. I really am. Okay, so today we hit 90,000 lunches, meals, not lunches. 90,000. 9,000, 9 and 4 zeros. That's energizing. A lot of people from the community have responded to say, wow, that's great. To see the web pages and to see the response and to see the quality is energizing to me. I know that sounds corny, but it is. I got a little bit, if you really care, I got a little bit despondent with the budget. And so here's my thinking on that. There's never been a more critical time for education than now, coming off a crisis. We're looking at kids' mental health first and other health second. And we're cut to negative $10,000. I just thought that was the laziest piece of budgeting I've ever seen by a state, just to freeze foundation aid and say, you're going to get what you got in it last year. Well, for Niagara Falls, that's hugely detrimental. Now, for Lewiston Porter, I love Lewiston Porter. Love them. Love the superintendent, love the kids, love the teachers. They get $30,000 in foundation aid. That's a rounding error I make on a mistake in the budget, $30,000. We get $4.5 million. So that was very frustrating for me, very frustrating and very disappointing. Otherwise, I have been energized by the notes, the emails, the texts, the calls, the work of the team, the principals, working every day, the food service people. You know, we get a little bit of grumbling, why do I have to go in? But that's kind of like gone by the wayside. Kind of gone by the wayside. I have 7 or 8 people that I meet with every day, including Rick and Ray and Maria and Kevin Edwards and Joanne, Dr. Civaroli and Joe Girizzo. And I don't know, Earl, I can't remember Earl's last name, Earl Smeal. It was Smeal. And they are like, they're tireless workers. And they're here every day, Saturday and Sunday. And it's kind of been we joke about movies, we joke about different things, we talk about TV shows and things. It's been a real bonding experience. And I don't mean to be corny about it, but I appreciate the ask and I am energized by the work. I really am. And I also think it says something about our district. And this is no affront to the city at all or anybody at all. We're the best thing the city has. The teachers, the staff, the board, it's the best thing in the city. And just trying to be, I think the difficulty is trying to keep people in the right lanes, because some people are ready to go 65 miles an hour. Some people are ready to go 50 miles an hour, and that's okay. We all have to realize that we're all driving a different car at a different rate of speed. And that's been a challenge, but it's kind of a fun challenge. And I think two of the things I know we have to do, one is codify everything we've done. And 2, every 10-week marking period next year, we need to send out a survey to the parents and the kids saying, do you have internet? Do you have a way to use a device at home? This thing will never happen again, God forbid, in any of our lifetimes. But we needed to be a little bit more prepared on who has internet and who doesn't. So that's going to happen next year too, a little survey. I just watched a great video from Cataract. A lot of schools are doing their videos. I watched a great video from Cataract. You can see in the people's voices the sincerity about wanting to get back. I saw 2 kids this weekend, socially distant, at Tops, and they're like, when can we go back? They really want to go back to school. You know, they all want a snow day, and they all want to be off, you know, here and there. But these kids really want to go back at Niagara Falls. They really do. So thank you for the ask. Thank you for letting me answer that with 4 minutes. Heck.
Hey, just real quickly, a couple of people have asked, you had mentioned about the district software, and they want to know, first of all, where that link for the district software is. And I believe also Ed Maynard sent out a very important email a bit ago. Maybe we can update that and send that out again so the teachers know where the software, where the materials are.
Yes, for sure. It's they're located in a couple different places. It's off the COVID website. If you go to Maple Avenue, Teacher Resources, the original list that Rick Corella, Melissa Cacciatore, and myself put together, that it's a district software, work together, put together how it's appropriate, length of use, and that's like really a great launching pad. There's a couple other spots on the website, and I will do that. I'll identify them with exact links so that they can be found easily. And I also just want to share what I'm doing on the new software, and I really started it last week. I would have liked to start it earlier, but there was just too much going on. But starting last week, I'm getting all these questions on a webinar, or I'm getting emails. Can I use this? Can I use that? How about this website? How about this link? Is it appropriate? All good answers and all well-meaning teachers that want to use different content. So what I started doing last week, I have a list of this kind of software, and I virtually reached out to technology committee members, either using the Meet Now feature in Office 3065, good old-fashioned telephone call, and I'll just give you 2 examples. One came from in the context of elementary STEM. So I reached out to Ronnie McGrath via email. I shared the link. She spent some time reviewing it and said, yep, this is appropriate and aligns with this piece of curriculum and these technology tools. Perfect. I sent it on its way. That was a good win. Another example, I got an email from Joe Contento, athletic director, and he had acquired some resources that might be useful for PE teachers. So I gathered that information. I sent it to Stan Wooten. We did an Office 365 meet now. He reviewed it and pulled out some very useful parts and forwarded it on its way. So that's my plan moving forward. I don't want to say that as important it is to stay in our lanes. I'm trying to develop a process that's a little bit more responsive for things that could be used and are responsible and align with all sorts of good things. So I hope that'll be helpful.
Okay, thank you. And that also deals with, I guess that answers the question for about 3 or 4 people who asked about the program or the site called Padlet. So we'll get back to you on that, I guess.
Great.
I've got a question here. Should school be canceled for the rest of the school year? Will we continue to do distance learning until the actual or the previously scheduled end of the school year?
Well, we'll do distance learning until 187 contractual days are up. You know what I mean? Or 183, whatever. I'm sorry, 183 days. Yeah, or whatever it takes. And you know what? I know there's a little bit of there's a conflict caused by the governor. I'll throw him under the bus because I'm mad about the budget. You know, when he said that a executive order overrides a collective bargaining agreement, I happen to disagree with him, but we'll do distance learning if we're not allowed to come back to school right through the last scheduled day that we're going to be in school. So say the governor says on May 15th or May 18th, that's about the time when I think he should make a decision. Say he says we're closed for the rest of the year. We will continue to expect teachers to work, and we'll continue to expect students to learn and listen and do their work until the last day that we set based on the contracted agreement in the contract. And then we'll give direction for end of the year celebrations and how we're going to do that. So yeah, the answer is yes, until the last day of school.
Okay, go ahead, Raj.
I have a student who is an English language learner, has an IEP, and his mother has asked for a more interactive technology software to use. She asked for Zoom, but this teacher explained that it was not district approved. Is there an alternative that we can use so that this teacher can work with this student throughout the week?
Well, that was our first Zoom mention of the night. 40, it's not bad. Interactive. Well, that's a visual piece of software. Does it have to be visual?
I would suggest that you reach out. I really need to probably touch base with Cheryl Mateer and a couple other resources to see what we can find for this instance. I don't have an answer right now.
Right. I don't either. That's a pretty specific question, but a good one, by the way. But a good one.
For the samples of web pages that are, I'll put in quotes, questionable, that maybe ought to be reviewed or looked at through the lens of it doesn't meet all the expectations. Is someone actually doing that and reaching out to those teachers?
I am. First look was the principal, second look was me. And you know what? To be really honest with you, there's less than a dozen of those at first blush. And we made some contact. I made some contact with certain people. There's no one should be passing judgment on anybody else's website except for principals and myself. And the point of this is continuous growth, continuous improvement. If I were doing a website compared to what Mr. Corella or Mr. Graneri could do, I'd certainly be at the bottom of the heap. But I'll tell you what I would do. I'd be in their office asking them how to help me. I'd be calling them every day and finding out how to help me. I would be Roger and Jean's best friend. That's what I would be doing. So we're not here to pass judgment on websites or to make sure that it hits a rubric score of 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. We're trying to do the best we can in the easiest way. So there's some really beautiful ones out there. But then I wonder how easy it is to be on the receiving end of that. It's more important to be functional than to have every bell and whistle, in my opinion, because you got to look at it. I look at the websites from the lens of a 3rd grader or a 6th grader or an 8th grader or a parent. So, you know, it's web pages. This is a new line, never to be coined again. Web pages are in the eye of the beholder and the user. But I am not going to entertain web page competition. That is not what this is about. This is about a community coming together for the betterment of kids in an awful situation. And I won't tolerate that talk. I'm not lecturing anybody here. I'm just telling you. Today, my point is every day you should be working on it, right? We are working every day. So spend some time every day working on your webpage. And if it's a technical question, bother the heck out of Gene and Roger and Ray and Diane Spicone or whoever else they got working on it. Bother the heck out of them. That's what they're working on. So my statement to that question is make your page more functional and functionally useful for a student and a parent every day. So let me just tell you a call I got on Thursday, but I returned the call on Friday. I got a call from the Investigative Journal, the Investigative Post, whatever they are, whoever that group is. I only see him on Channel 2. Jim Heaney, he's got a beard, and then now they got a girl on. So I really don't even know what the thing is. But what they do is they go looking around for stories, you know. So the question was, how are you justifying paying your teachers? I said, because they're giving work. They're giving work and they're giving feedback and they're reviewing their work. Now, we're not there all the way yet, but we've never been in a COVID crisis. And I said, or any crisis of this magnitude. And I said, here's the difference now that has ever happened in the history of education as I knew it. Their plan books are in the public domain. That's never happened in the history of education as I know it. So if you don't believe me, go to the website, but don't pass judgment on them. Just know they're all working. And I'm not going to have to justify this again with you. So that's how I answered it. Then I hung up the phone and went to start checking web pages to make sure I was right. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that I was right. So there's a lot of naysayers out there about education because they think I make too much money and don't do enough, or Ray or Rick doesn't do anything, or we're paying this. So there's a lot of people out there. That's why we have to rise to the occasion of putting our best foot forward, not in terms of glitz and glamour necessarily, but in terms of functionality for kids and parents who are very stressed as well. So that's how, and to date, I don't feel bad about spending one dime of our money. I really don't. So let's just keep it up. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you. Next.
Okay, are buildings keeping track of the students who are picking up the packets? Can teachers get that information? It would be nice to know who is picking them up, and so that they can differentiate.
One more time again, I'm sorry.
Are the buildings keeping track of a particular student, individual students who are picking up the packets, the family, so that the teacher can know to differentiate and so on?
I'll let Rick take that.
Okay, not to my knowledge, we are not tracking each individual family by name, and the reason is for safety. We have to meet very stringent guidelines for how we distribute meals and how we distribute packets, so that we're not putting our staff at risk, or we're putting the public at risk by making them wait in a line to transfer information and then take what they need. So the buildings have developed systems under Dr. Joe Silveroli's guidance to make sure that the distribution is very, very quick with a minimal amount of risk. Now, what the schools are doing is they are keeping track of the families that have contacted the school and said that for whatever reason, they are unable to come to their home school to pick up a packet. We know that we have a lot of families that are on special permission at schools. We have a lot of students that are in specialized programming, so they attend a school that is not near their home school. Now, for meal distribution, our families are used to being able to go to the school that is closest to them, whether or not it's their home school. But in this instance, they need to once or twice a month, well, actually twice a month or at least once a week,
Right.
in some cases, get to their home school.
Right.
So we've asked the principals to determine which families genuinely cannot make that trip even once a week. And the superintendent has a plan to collect those names and deliver the students' work to their homes. We're not knocking on the door. We aren't doing any face-to-face exchange, but we're coming up with a plan to safely deliver to the homes when families, one, require hard copies, and two, genuinely cannot get to their home schools to pick them up.
Right. So we'll have some sort of delivery mechanism with some of our grounds people or laborers who are dressed and clothed appropriately with face coverings and gloves, and they'll simply leave the packets on the doorstep. The principals, are gathering that information right now. Next.
One for Mr. Granieri. Can we add our own home videos of reading a story to our webinars, to our websites, excuse me?
And again, I have to pause because there's a lot of things that I have to think about when videos are just a difficult thing for a lot of different reasons. So something specifically that can you email me some details and I can reach out and have a discussion. I just am hesitant to talk about videos because of one day we're using something, the next day we can't.
Yeah, it kind of takes you down a path that we don't always want to go. I appreciate the effort and the thought and the ability to read to children, but I'm not sure I love the idea, and you could hear the hesitancy in Ray's voice, only because of personal protection. Next.
Raj?
Can students that receive the laptops, are they going to be able to use the internet in their homes, and will they be able to use YouTube as some teachers are using the videos there? For example, the Khan Academy.
They're going to have the same kind of, I won't say grief, but YouTube in district can be kind of hit and miss because it follows under the content filtering appliance that we run within the district. So we took a client version of that and applied it because obviously that laptop is underneath the district umbrella. So there's never going to be a firm yes or no answer on the usage of YouTube. The usage is really going to be defined by the appliance, in which our case the vendor is Lightspeed. So most often I think you'll be okay, but there's never a clear, and I don't mean to be evasive on purpose, but there isn't a clear answer all the time on YouTube, whether you're in district or not.
Can you explain the hotspots that are going along with the distribution of the laptops?
Well, what we've done in the high school, I think, has done a tremendous job of not only vetting laptops, but also the uses of hotspots. So we were able to acquire, we were one of the first districts, I think it might have been the first district, through BOCES to acquire hotspots, which really are individual in the context of, having to stay within your confines of your home. They're individual units that we purchased from BOCES. We have a limited number right now. I reached out today to see if we could acquire more. But I would say the hotspots, the high school's done a really good job of determining a high need of a student, not only for a laptop, but for the hotspot, so that it's really a responsible way of distributing these hotspots. They're acquired through Verizon, and I think they're going to be effective, especially coupled with the client version of content filtering that's sitting on the student laptop.
We're probably gonna have to buy more, Ray. They're starting to go like hot cakes, the hotspots. I read in the Buffalo News that the infamous Cash Kreiner bought 28,640 of them. We bought 18. We'll buy some more. We'll buy some more. We're trying to do it judiciously. We're trying to move slowly, but they are effective as long as we have content filtering under Education Law 2D. Probably one of the most significant laws and boring laws I've ever seen. Sorry.
Okay. Hey, I got one here for Mr. Granieri. Is there any way to give us the ability to print from our school laptops at home?
Well, you would require administrator rights for a lot of reasons, which I could bore you with. But we have to manage laptops, and we manage them in district through an administrative logon. So if you're going to install anything, software, hardware, that the administrative credentials are going to pop up. So that question's come up before. And it's just a tough one. I mean, we're never going to release those credentials for obvious reasons. And it will require an in-district handshake, if you will. So that's going to be a tough one for a lot of reasons.
Okay, Raj?
For the superintendent, how do the seniors get their lawn signs?
Mrs. Sharella, I believe she's one of the senior class advisors, has put out a Remind app or some other app that I'm not supposed to be talking about because Ray's sitting next to me with a 2D law stick. So Mrs. Sharella is the person I spoke to today. She put out a query to kids about who would be interested in buying them. And they're about $12. I love them. 70 of them are on lawns already, and we're going to do this. Benefactor wants to do it for any student who can't. That's the exact. It's not a fundraiser. That's what it costs to make the sign. And I guess it's not the sign that costs a lot. It's all the wiring that goes behind it that costs. So I asked Mrs. Sharella to put out another Remind app or communication to the senior class to see who would want one and who would display one. And then we'll ask them to go into production. So if you're a senior or you know a senior, look for something from Mrs. Sharella in the next day or two, and you could sign up. Okay.
From a teacher, a general question: should teachers continue to work within their plan books?
Your plan book is your web page and everything else that's out there. You can do, I mean, you do whatever you want. You do whatever you need to do in your written plan book or whatever form you're using, but I'll tell you right now, we're not collecting your written plan books for the remainder of the year. There's a new directive for you. We won't be collecting written plan books for the remainder of the year, but your plan book is your web page or your Office 365 tool. So if teachers want to keep their written plan book, that's great. But they should keep a record, though. Listen, let me be really clear. I was almost a little flip in that answer, and I don't mean to be. Let me be very clear. Teachers should keep a record of everything that they've put out and everything that they've done, be it in a plan book, a binder, a folder on their computer. Why? And I hope this never happens, but invariably, something like this will happen. My kid went to 11th grade and you never talked to him about this ever in your life, about polynomials. No one ever told him to read To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm making this up. To Kill a Mockingbird and answer these 3 questions. There's got to be something. A plan book does a lot of things. A plan book helps you prepare to teach. A plan book also documents what you've done and protects you in case you're ever questioned by an outsider about teaching a concept. In this case, the need for a plan book is to show documentation that you have followed the curriculum, provided a free, appropriate education at the grade level or developmentally appropriate age level of a child. So my flipness was just about, I don't care what form it's on, but make sure you keep a record of what you've done. And, that could be on a folder and it could be backed up, whatever way you do it on a computer. But you got to keep a record of this. That's why we collect these things down the line, because invariably somebody will file a lawsuit and said, my son didn't get into Harvard because Mr. Granieri did not teach him this concept. And we want to say, no, on May 12th, Mr. Granieri brought the book out and showed him polynomials. That's not why he didn't get into Harvard. So that's my answer there. And only one of my kids could have had a chance getting into Harvard, and he's on the webinar.
Going back to the summer school question, is there a chance that it might possibly be online?
Wow, that's really a tough one. Elementary wise, I would say no. Elementary wise, I would say no. I would not go there. Elementary wise, if we're able to stop socially distant or let the air out of the balloon, so to speak, a little bit, we'll let kids be kids. High school wise, there's a chance, I think, because of the Carnegie units and the credits. I'm talking 8th grade through 12th grade. There's a chance. Yeah. K to 7, nah, no way. I wouldn't, there's no way to do that. Well, there's a way to do it. I wouldn't advise that. We'll have 7 years to make up the curriculum. Grades 8 through 12, yes, I could see it. I could see it happening. That's not a promise. I hope it doesn't, but I could see it happening.
This is from a middle school language arts teacher. She has heard from some students that they're having difficulty with Amplify and it not working for them. What can students do who need some technical support?
Rick?
They have to contact their teacher and let their teacher know what the issues are. The teacher is the one that has the direct line to the Amplified company. They have the chat option, which they can put in at any time. So they can submit a ticket and get an almost instant response. So that has to be done from student to teacher, who should be monitoring what the students that are online are doing anyway.
Are paper packets still being prepared for some students who are not able to work or cannot do their work digitally?
Yes. Yep. And the principals are handling that very well. But I'd love to get away from that at some point. We'll never get away from it totally. But the answer is yes, we'll never be able to get away from it. Next.
Just more of a comment than anything. It's as frustrating as online education may be for teachers. As we move ahead, can we please think of how overwhelming this is for parents and students? This is coming not only from...
Absolutely. That's why I absolutely agree with that comment. That's why these web pages aren't a competition of beauty or how much content you can put on in 2 weeks or how many pages you can do. They're an exercise in functionality, in clear directions, ease of following, not overwhelming amounts of work. It's the quality is in the thought behind the assignment you put out, not in the beauty of it or in the amount of it. It's what our teachers are pretty smart. They're very smart. How smart can you be about putting out a quality assignment? You're doing it differently. And that doesn't have to be the most beautiful picture, and it doesn't have to be the longest picture. It just has to be a functional picture that helps kids learn. So that's why you look at a website with a different lens. And I like the lens I'm seeing. And I think if I, again, not to belabor it, but if I had to do one, and I should and don't, I would be working on it every day. And I would ask somebody, I had a child of that age or somebody close to that age, what do you think of this? Could you understand this? Somebody that has no idea, because it's about functionality.
Raj, and somebody has just sent in a comment that the Chrome app needs to be downloaded for Amplify to appear. I know that the Chrome browser has apps or extensions, and maybe that would help the person who is.
Thank you. I'll make note of that. We'll address it tomorrow.
Okay.
Does Remind count as two-way communication?
The answer is yes, but I'm not going to answer that question.
Good.
How's
It will
that?
go unanswered.
The answer is yes, but but I'm not answering that. How's that for a Education 2D law violation answer?
Okay.
Perfect. You should run for office.
Yeah. And there's not
Never,
a
never, Never, ever, never, ever.
Okay. And
Ever.
nobody said that there is a form on Remind and Facebook for senior signs either.
You know what? Email Amy. I'm really putting this poor woman out there, but email Amy Sharella. I talked to her at 5 o'clock today,
Okay.
and probably she's got a family and probably a lot of work to do. She's gonna get that out there to everybody.
Okay. Raj, go ahead.
Okay. Should special education teachers be working in tandem with the core area teachers to modify assignments?
Yes, one of the great stories of this school year has been the co-teaching model. And I wish we could have celebrated and talked about it and developed it more. But the answer is yes. Just, using all the tools that you have to communicate, including the old dial phone. Please, 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 we cannot as a district lose the incredible momentum, the incredible work our staff did on co-teaching. And I remember June 24th, 2019, when I talked to a group of elementary teachers, and there was like, how the heck are we going to do this? By September 1st, 2019, it was flying. And by January 1st, it was a sight to see. We can't lose the momentum. So as I talk about my goals for next year, even though this year's not over, it's going to be Head Start when we get it. It's going to be CTE and trade school courses. It's going to be sister schools, and it's going to be an advancement and a higher quality level of integrated co-teaching. Those are going to be they're going to be clear goals, and I'm not going to create any more because I want to do well at certain things and not get off the highway.
Got a couple of questions regarding Classroom Dojo. It says under the new stipulations, the things that you said, Mr. Granieri, should we stop using Classroom Dojo?
Well, I have a similar answer. We've used Class Dojo.
Mm-hmm.
We're not licensed for it. I can't support it, but I'm aware of some of its uses. Again, I don't need to be evasive, but there's different levels of software usage. And I will send out a list with links to approved, licensed software we can support. That being said, Remind has its place in time. Class Dojo has its place in time here. It's just a matter of its use and the official response I can make because it's not licensed software. It's not under the Niagara Falls City School District's licensing structure that I can comment on. Again, I'm not being evasive on purpose. I just have to follow some rules.
Sure.
Yeah, keep using it. That's my answer. We can't support it. Keep using it. It's the wrong 2D answer, but I'm not going to tell you to stop now.
Can our parents call our cell phone for any help?
I don't know. I've given out my cell phone number because the public pays for I pay a fee to the Board of Education for my cell phone, so I feel like it's a public phone. But I could never tell anybody to personally do that. Have them call a phone at your office and take a message. I wouldn't use your cell phone. No, I can't advocate that. I don't have a good answer for how to do it, but I would never tell anybody to use their personal cell phone for business work. And we could sit here till 10 o'clock figuring out ways around it, but that's my answer to the question. You can call my phone anytime you want because it's paid for by the taxpayers, even though I do contribute to it. So I feel like I should give my number to everybody. But I would not advocate giving out your personal cell phone. Next.
Well, here's a long one. As regular ED teachers still are regular ED teachers still scheduled to be a part of the CSE meetings that are coming up? My co-teacher mentioned that there are a series of conferences coming up for my students on Friday, but I have not
Yeah.
received official email regarding this. Should I call in or make arrangements for these meetings?
Yeah, we have some waivers for the for members of the committee. However, we're making these calls during work time. You should contact two people. You can contact your school psychologist or your school principal, okay? Psychologist or principal, and a general ed teacher that we want you to be part of those meetings. If you haven't been notified, maybe it's coming. But if not, please call one of those and involve yourself in the conference and in the conversation somehow. Again, I know that begs the cell phone question, but please, you are welcome. Now, we've had a couple of meetings where Mr. Coney, a member of our central CSE team, has sat in as the general ed teacher, mainly for out-of-district placements and some other ones where we couldn't get a hold of the teacher. And if you know Mr. Coney, you know he's a very, very good teacher and a very good member of the CSE committee and very in tune to kids. So I certainly appreciate Frank doing that, but I would prefer to have the general ed teacher of the student if at all possible.
Okay, going along with that, it's just a comment that from a teacher that this teacher had 6 amazing annual reviews with parents involved today.
That's really, you know what, that's really great to hear. You know what I think? I think that during this time, parents want a semblance of routine, order, and know that their special ed child is being looked after and thought of. And I really think even with the food program, we're getting so many nice comments about that. We're forging new relationships. So why not take advantage of it? Let's forge those new relationships. I'm sure it's less rushed. I'm sure it's, there's not the busyness of getting to the next one, or the teacher gets called out of the room for a problem. That's really great to hear.
Are there counselor web pages for mental health needs?
A lot of counselors have done that. A lot of counselors, a lot of social workers have put up lists of resources on their page. I've seen a few of those. I don't want to call anybody out, but I've seen a good number of them. I would encourage everybody to do that. I know the high school counselors are swamped up to their eyeballs in scholarship applications, college applications, course selection sheets. But I know the social worker, especially the one in high school, outstanding job. Various social workers and counselors at other schools have done a nice resource packet. So the answer is yes.
Again, going back to amplify a statement, as a parent, I needed to have my son go on Google Chrome in order to get Amplify to work today. So that might be good for Mr. Granieri as well.
Yeah, thank you. That is correct. It doesn't work out.
Yeah, the rules haven't changed probably in district or at home.
Right, that is correct. The kids know in school that they have to use Chrome. So
Okay.
it wouldn't be any different at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How are we handling the remainder of the year for APPR and teacher observations? Will this still count towards tenure?
The governor has, I'll start and then I'll let Rick jump in here. We thought that he had waived the APPR provision, but he technically hasn't. I guess according to the law, the only way to waive the APPR provision is by an executive order, which the governor just loves doing all of a sudden. Sarcasm holding back on. But I think it's going to happen. It just hasn't happened officially yet. We're not doing teacher observations. We're not going to be able to complete that part of APPR. He'll waive it by executive order when he gets around to it, as he kind of toys with us, I think, sometimes. Did I miss anything, Rick?
No, the regents recommended that it be waived for this year, but as Mark said, that can only be, because it's codified in law.
Right, it's law.
It can only be done by executive order. And I haven't heard anything that would indicate he's not going to do it. I think he just has other things that he needs to do right now.
Rick's nice by saying it's going to happen. Don't worry about it. We'll make sure it happens one way or another. I think he's just toying with us sometimes. That's my cynical side coming out that I do have. But we're not going to continue with APPR observations or walkthroughs or look fors this year. But we'll be back in September, I hope. I hope school's back. Next.
What do we do if students aren't completing the online work or the paper packets? The teacher has tried to reach all of the students, but there are about 7 that have not been able to get in touch with.
Turn those names over to your principal, and we'll have counselors and deans, social workers make those calls. And I'm not presuming that maybe they have. Turn those names over to the principal. Keep trying. Keep trying. I know. Try. Document your attempts, please. So I've called Mr. Granary. I text Mr. Granary. I've called Mr. Granary. I've used the Education Breaking 2D app Remind 12 times with Mr. Granary, and he has never responded. I know the high school, again, that statistic about 518 versus 1900, they have about 200 kids that they have had no success with in terms of any kind of one or two-way communication. But they're still trying, and I would ask you as individual teachers to do the same thing. You may have a number or an email or a Remind app or whatever, so keep trying, but document your attempts. Next.
Raj, I don't know. There's a very nice statement here for you, Mr. Laurie. It says, thank you for keeping us so informed.
You're welcome.
It helps knowing our district has our family's health and safety at the forefront of all decisions. So I applaud the job that all our leaders have provided.
Well, thank you. That's really not, you know what, just like, I mean it, and I'll do more to call and thank individual teachers when I can see them again. But that makes me feel good. I think we've done it as a team. We don't always agree. And the visual that I keep using with our team is there's not a book anywhere that you could pick up and figure this thing out with. It's like building that bridge one slat in front of you every day. And at the end, we're going to get across it, right? And we'll be able to walk back. But that's why today I had to, just for my own personal sanity, stop and say, what do I want this district to look like 2 weeks from now? What are the non-negotiables that have to be done in 2 weeks? What do I have to say we're hitting on all cylinders on? Those 5 things. 2 weeks from now, I'm going to ask for more. 4 weeks from now, I'm going to ask for more. But I want to keep it focused. And there are people who are running way ahead of the bridge. They're being safe, but I have to move 1,200 people. Not I. We have to move 1,200 people as a unit. And as long as you're moving in that unit with us, I'm satisfied. Your principal will be satisfied. The parents will be satisfied. The kids will be satisfied. So I appreciate that comment. You know what? I have to tell you, because I do have an ego, of course, it's really nice to hear that, and it really makes you feel good. And I don't, along with these gentlemen and others, we don't really count the hours. I've watched more shows on Netflix, and I think I'm going to go into Ozark and I'll say it, Schitt's Creek. Those are my next 2. And I just have to watch one more movie, then I've seen every Academy Award-winning movie. That is, what's that one we talked about? Jojo Rabbit. That will round out my Netflix, and I'm moving on to Hulu then.
Well,
we're looking at some repeats of some questions if we want to maybe conclude here.
How about a couple more, then I'll summarize. How about 2 or 3 more, then I'm going to summarize.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
People are making comments about your Netflix right now.
Yeah. Tell my mother and my son they better watch it.
This teacher purchased something called Smart Class Flipped Classroom Technology. Is there an issue with using it to flip her classroom lessons?
Could I ask that she emails that question to me? And as I said earlier, what I'm really trying to do is to reach out. That one of the sole purposes of the technology committee is to vet resources and to make sure that it's in alignment with all sorts of stuff, not just one person making a decision or all sorts of other people. There's all sorts of other people that are skilled and have a knowledge base to help make the best decisions. So if that teacher can email me, anybody, what they'd like to use, and I'll certainly reach out to most appropriate technology committee members, and we'll take a look.
Okay. Another.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Raj.
I was going to say, the question came whether or not prep school students will be getting the option to have a laptop.
Not in the next 2 weeks. Not in the next 2 weeks. Ray and team have got to work the high school, and he's got now 9 days to work that high school for obvious Carnegie unit credit bearing things. I know 8th graders are taking Regents exams. I get that. And I'm not saying forget about them, but I've got to have him nail the high school before I can go to the middle school. Okay. One more each.
Well, I'm looking through, and again, the question comes up, Ray, I guess, would be the best answer to this. Again, the YouTube question: can they embed videos on their web pages, which means that they don't see all the other things around them, just the video itself?
It's just a very difficult answer for me because, again, videos, Zoom, things of that nature, they're good today, not good tomorrow. It's difficult for me to give an answer to a video that I don't know what the content is.
A good point.
And the content filtering appliance that was written by our vendor makes those decisions on what can be seen and unseen. I have the capability to alleviate the filter, to move the filter so it can be seen if it's appropriate. But for me to say yes or no to that kind of question is just difficult. And again, I'm not trying to be evasive on purpose. It's,
Okay.
I like Ray's answer right there about how could you, I don't know what the content is. I mean, there's a lot of great YouTube content, right? And there's a lot of fun YouTube content, and there's a lot of inappropriate YouTube content. So I can't put him in that position, I can't.
Okay.
Yet I trust people wouldn't use the fun or the inappropriate, but I can't come out we can't come out and endorse that. All right. Last one.
We all heard about the Regents exams being canceled for the year. Is there any word about the BOCES regional exams or local exams?
From BOCES?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't asked. Matt, it's a really good question. We have a BOCES superintendent's meeting tomorrow at 2:00, and I will answer. I will ask that question now. I didn't even think of it. So whoever asked, I'll make sure you put it on your form so that I can ask it and answer it. I'll ask at 2:00 tomorrow, and I'll either put it in one of my videos or calls and get the answer. It's a local exam, I guess. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I don't have an answer yet. Good question to end on. But let me say this. As I forgot, one of my favorite HBO Go shows that I watched, 7 episodes of McMillions. There's a good view how between listen, between 1987 and 2001, the Monopoly McMillions game was rigged. I never knew that. Okay, so the guy was stealing the pieces, the big money pieces. It's pretty intriguing. It involves the mob, which I like. It involves everything and how they stole these pieces and how they sold them. It is quite fascinating. And not that I've had a Happy Meal or two in my life, but but that game was a scam.
I was so close.
Yeah, you weren't going to ever win for 14 years. So here's what happened. I'm like, why don't I remember that? Am I forgetting things? Well, the indictment was handed down August 21st, 2001. 20 days later was September 11th. It blew everything off the front page, God forbid. And it blew McMillions to the back pages, but it's a crazy, intriguing story. So that's my hot tip for the week. Having said that,
And
let me say this
yes,
in closing, before you give your spiel, Gene and Roger. We will be back on Sunday night, same bad time, same bad channel. Thank you very much for the work that you did on your web pages and your Office 365 work. Roger or Gene will send me the questions. I'll either interweave them in my YouTube video or our phone call if they're really pressing. If not, we'll answer them next Sunday night, first off. Secondly, let's stay together on those objectives for the next 2 weeks. Next, continue to bring quality and functionality to your web page. Next, did I forget something? Next, please remember it's about how the student and parent reads it. Next, don't forget about the social, emotional needs of kids. While tonight we pushed out a lot of work, don't forget about their social, emotional needs, please. They're paramount now. And finally, staff, please know that either a web page phase 2 training or a Office 365 OneNote training is in your future this week. Please attend at least one of those webinars. They're all the same, but there's 2 different ones, but they're both the same. They're the same thing will be produced over and over again. Please attend one of those to help improve your skills. And finally, continue to represent this district the way that you've represented it up to this point, with dignity, with compassion, and with real affinity for equity in education. I appreciate it. I thank you, and I say good night, and please stay healthy. We need you. Stay healthy.
okay. Well, thank you again, Mr. Laurie, and we'll see you next Sunday. And again, just that reminder, an hour from now, we will be sending out a thank you for attending the webinar email. And inside is a survey in which you can ask questions or voice concerns, and we will make sure we get them to Mr. Laurie. With that, any last comments, Raj?
No, just please stay safe.
Yeah, and we'll see a lot of you tomorrow online.
Yes, live.
We hope. And with that, we'll say good night.
Good night, everybody.